Views and opinions expressed in this production are those of the individual and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Shooters Nation or our sponsors. Information provided on this show is not a replacement for legal counsel or professional training. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on live shows.
Welcome to the Shooters Nation podcast, the talk show for you, the armed citizen. Join us as we discuss guns and gear, training, mindset and knowledge, industry news and buzz, and of course, the firearms culture. Be sure to join us after the show at shootersnation.com and become part of the Shooters Nation.
Hey folks, I'm your host David Yancey, and this is the Shooters Nation podcast. Right about now, I'm normally introducing my co-host Mark Lancaster, but unfortunately, Mark could not join me this time. But don't worry, we haven't broken up. He and I are still together, but family is super important to both me and Mark, and tonight he's doing stuff with his family, which is exactly the way it should be. However, don't take this the wrong way. If you're a fan of Mark and you're missing his deep baritone voice soothing you on your drive into work or something like that, I've got a pretty good compromise for you. I think I'm perhaps the luckiest guy on the internet tonight because I am accompanied by not one but two beautiful and intelligent ladies who are here to talk with me about widening the to a tent and busting up stereotypes. So, sitting in the same room with me and recording a podcast with me for the very first time ever is my wife, Sandy. Sandy, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Sandy, normally you give me grief for forgetting to introduce you to folks, so I don't really want to get that tonight. Do you want to tell people about yourself, or do you want me to tell people about you?
Oh, I can't wait to hear what you're going to say. So
really?
Go for
You're going
it.
to trust me with that?
I am.
That is awesome. So I'm going to start with the most awesome thing that Sandy has ever done in her life was meet me. And everything begins from there. You sure you want me to do this, or do you want to
keep going?
Okay. So this is why I really think that we need to do YouTube videos again, because that would be fun. So Sandy is a registered nurse. Sandy, you actually started out with what, orthopedics and mental illnesses? I don't know what.
Orthopedics and vascular surgery, actually.
Yeah, mental illnesses sounded better than that. So, all right, we'll edit that and make sure that everybody thinks that you were a quack doctor, or quack nurse.
You are always dealing with mental illness in the hospital, for sure. Whether it's other staff or your patients.
Probably prepared you for me. So, and so Sandy is actually getting ready to start her own podcast series for women. And when she found out about my other guest tonight, she was super excited, and this was not optional, which is exactly why she's here in the room with me tonight. Actually, you know what's funny is I think we started our relationship with each other sitting across from the room, corresponding in a second person format, didn't we? It was like texting.
Yes, we were sort of texting each other from the same couch, really.
That's really sad. I'm gonna delete that from our podcast also. All right. So, Sandy, I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited about that, but I'm really excited. Don't take that the wrong way. I'm really excited about our other guest.
I am really excited about her too. That's why I'm here.
Okay.
It's not for you.
You're not. Okay, well, you didn't need to say that part, but whatever. I mean, honesty is good. So this all brings me to a very important part of the show. And so joining me and Sandy from across the vast internet tonight, but honestly, just a few miles down the road in Memphis, Tennessee, is the lovely, armed, and responsibly dangerous Miss Tiffany Johnson, Esquire. Tiffany, welcome to the Shooters Nation podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. I really.
Hey, Sandy.
Hello, Tiffany.
I see. I'm already forgetting that she's over there. I'm like just launching straight into this, and so this is terrible. I'm gonna have to rearrange the studios that like when somebody's actually here in the room with me, they're across. I can see them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, whatever. Or a rearview mirror. I can put a rearview mirror on this thing and see you from back there, which is fine. So. Anyway, and so Tiffany, we're also joined tonight by your partner at the Citizen Safety Academy in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Aqil Qadir. Aqil, welcome, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, everybody.
We are thrilled to have both of you here and Sandy, which now I'm in trouble.
Wow. What an introduction.
I don't know. There's just no possible way for me to do this right tonight. So I'm just doomed for failure. And I think, Tiffany, I told you in an email that I already felt like the third wheel before this even started because Sandy was so jazzed about talking to you about women's stuff and guns. And I guess really that's terrible. It's women's gun stuff, right? I mean, you're not going to talk about women's stuff.
Don't worry. It's okay. I'm sure Sandy will save you if you get into trouble.
No, I plan on sitting back over here and watching him go down in flames. I'm gonna watch him take down the ship.
I really miss Mark. Aqil, I'll tell you what, man. If it goes that way, you and I, let's just go. You're not that far away. I'll come find you. We'll just leave them to trash us or me or whatever. This is terrible. I just want to start all over. No, I don't. Let's just keep going. We'll preserve this for posterity's sake, and everybody else can enjoy my misery. So, Mark, we really miss you, man. Can't wait for you to come back. Seriously, for reals. Tiffany, there's so much about you that I think our listeners ought to know, and I don't even know where we should start. So, let me start off with the basics. Tiffany, who are you, and what do you do for a living?
Wow. Well, I'm an attorney and I'm also a teacher. I teach at the University of Memphis and I am a firearms safety instructor. I started out with Range Master a couple years ago. And that's how I met Aqil. And Aqil has started a wonderful training outfit called Citizen Safety Academy. And I was lucky enough to be invited to join his cadre. And so he and I have been training together ever since.
I need a cadre. That is like the coolest thing ever. So
it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Yeah. So how long have y'all been working together?
Well, I guess it depends on how you define that. I've known Aqil sort of distantly for gosh, I don't know what years and years. He may know better than I do. We used to cross paths kind of sporadically in the training world.
Okay.
But it wasn't until September of last year. It's been right at a year that I came and took a class from him. And then okay. I knew immediately that I wanted to take more classes from him and the rest is history.
Awesome. Yeah. It's funny how small the firearms training community really is. And, not only in the instructors, but in students. And I'm talking about like the really ardent students that are going after it and they're going after all the training that they can possibly take. You start to see the same faces and I haven't been to as many of the classes as I want to. And I think that's something that I'm really committing to myself to try to change from this point forward. But, when you look through the photos that are posted on social media of all these different classes, you start seeing the same faces. And that seems really cool. It's like a very small, tight-knit family. So I guess, Tiffany, I know that you said that talking about yourself, is not something that you're really excited about. And I'm completely cool with it. And by that, I mean, I'm perfectly cool talking about you, not me. But do you mind? Can I share some of the info about you from your website biography?
Sure. Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, you wrote this stuff. So, I mean, if it's wrong or if it sounds like, self-glamorizing, I'm totally blaming you. So
totally blame me. I'm already in the corner. Embarrassed as
no,
it is.
I'm kidding. Because really, the funny thing was, most people's bio, it's kind of like the I love me wall where it just goes on and on and on and on. You're scrolling like, wow, this is a lot about you. And you're not like that, which is really awesome. But anyway, so I'm just kind of going to go through it. I had to dredge this stuff up from different parts of your site. So anyway, So audience, this is what you need to know about Tiffany Johnson. First and foremost, you need to know that the very first time that I met Tiffany in person, she came right around the table and told me I was getting a hug. So right there, mic drop, best person ever. You can stop listening right now and know everything you need to know about Tiffany and that she's the coolest person on this planet. Except for my wife, who puts up with me on a daily basis. But Tiffany, you're right in there. Right, like number 2. So I don't get very many hugs. I'm pretty unhuggable, I think. But anyway, other than that, Tiffany, your blog says that you took your very first firearms class to get your concealed carry permit in 2001, and since then you've taken every class available from Tom Givens at Range Master in Memphis, Tennessee. And seriously, like every class available. I mean,
yeah.
How many would you guess that is?
Oh gosh. Oh, pop quiz. It's probably 20 or 30.
Wow. Okay.
He's pared it down now that he's just doing itinerant work, and he's not based in Memphis anymore. But when we had the range in Memphis, there was a pretty extensive curriculum.
He's been doing this for a while. I mean,
yes.
he has amassed a wealth of practical, and I'm going to call it very valid knowledge about using a handgun or a firearm in general for self-defense from a career of doing it, which is pull up a chair and listen to that all day long. That's really neat. Okay, so according to your blog, also you've trained her, man, and this is so great. It's like the who's who of the training industry. John Farnham of Defense Training International. You've been with Jen Higginbottom of the American Institute of Marksmanship, Marshall Luton of the Defensive Shooting Academy of Tulsa, Craig Douglas of ShivWorks. And it's funny, so many of our guests and even Mark, I believe, have taken classes now with Craig, and it's like, I've got to do it. I feel like almost like I've been to one of his classes from everything I've heard from everybody else. So that is absolutely on my short list. You've trained under Masad Ayub, which is fantastic. One of the longest running voices in this industry. And I bet that had to be cool. We could talk about that for a long while on an episode. And also Jeff Gonzalez of Trident Concepts. And that's just to name a few. You're a member of the NRA and the Second Amendment Foundation. And you've earned firearms instructor certifications from the state of Tennessee, the state of Mississippi, the NRA, Masad Ayub Group, and you hold an advanced instructor certification from Rangemaster. And kind of like in a nutshell, like I said, I had to pull that together off of various parts of your website because seriously, you are very humble about this, and you don't like to talk about yourself and beat your own drum. But I'm going to bet. Is that, well, I mean, so
no, this is very awkward right now.
Well, this is my chance to talk about how awesome you are, and as my guest, you have to endure it. So, I'm going to kind of place a bet. I bet you can shoot, can't you?
Well, it's
Aqil said yes.
Well, Aqil is helping me with that. So
okay.
I think I'm not where I want to be. I have weaknesses, as we all do, but I take it very seriously, and I practice as much as I can, which isn't nearly as much as I should. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I am.
I can relate to that. I don't know. I want to ask, but maybe I don't want to ask because I don't want to put you on the spot. But how often would you wager that you do make it to the range?
Oh gosh. Now probably a couple of times a year.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, just for informal, me taking myself to the range.
Right. Yeah. Not you taking or teaching a class, right? But you to go yourself, right?
Not nearly as often. I'm lucky if I get to the range once a month.
Oh, wow.
That would be a great month. Unfortunately, it was a lot easier when my when my mentor had a range right down the street from my house.
Yeah.
But he up and moved to Florida on me, so.
Oh me. Well.
So that kind of complicates things. No, I'm just kidding. I don't mean to blame everything on Tom. It's not his fault.
I hope he moved to a part of Florida that's not just covered in sand. We got back from Florida. What was it, last week? And it was nice. The weather was amazing. My allergies didn't bother me, but.
Oh yeah. It's nice down there. Yeah. Now I'm only blaming Tom because I'm secretly jealous that they that they live down there. It's really nice.
I bet.
But no, it's tough to get to the range as often as I would like to.
Sure.
I'm ashamed to say, but I try as much as I can. And Aqil and I have been sort of making pacts with each other that we gotta get out there and practice a lot more regularly.
Now I'm gonna come clean just because you were honest. I'll be honest. We live 5 minutes from a really nice outdoor range, and prior to last year, we've been in this house for about 4 years, and prior to last year, I hadn't been hardly any. And before we moved here, we lived very close to where Aqil and your office is over in Murfreesboro, so about 30 miles away. And we would drive over at least once a month. And it's like, what is going on? When I moved closer to this place, I quit going. And I don't know, it is stupid. So I've been trying to go more often, and it helps. So anyway, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but
no, that's okay. I need some accountability. So
I'm the worst person to give accountability to because I'll enable. It's like, oh yeah, things are busy. I'll help you come up with reasons not to. I'm a good justifier, really good.
Sometimes
justifier.
when we do courses, I get her to we still reps during courses. So
right.
One of us will put the other one on the line. With the students sometimes.
That's dirty.
Reps that way.
Yeah.
Put her on the spot sometime. You know, one person has to demo while the other one teaches. So she gets a few more reps than I think she thinks she does. But it's tough when you teach. When you teach a lot, you stand in front of people and but you don't get to actually get out and do real practice.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to carve out time for yourselves really to go do that. So I'm definitely not going to throw rocks.
Before we move on, I have a quick question, Tiffany. How long was it between when you started shooting and when you started teaching, shooting instruction?
It was about a year.
Wow.
It's funny. I did not have any aspirations to teach or anything like that. Never in a million years would have guessed that that's where I would end up. But the range master family it just kind of enveloped me in a completely unexpected and probably undeserved way. And I just got swept up into the whole culture and found myself kind of there all the time. And things progressed really quickly for me. And then Tom kind of took me under his wing. And so that really put things into hyperdrive. And next thing you know, I was taking the instructor course.
Wow.
Awesome.
That is very cool. It's neat to find somebody that's willing to, like you said, somewhat undeservedly, and I would wager that that's not the case for you. I firmly believe that you're very deserving of that, but still, when we're thinking about ourselves introspectively, we kind of think, no, I don't deserve that. And to have somebody that's willing to invest and pour their experience and their life's work into you, it is just fantastic. So that's a huge shout out for Tom and people like him that do that. Those people are what make it all happen. So
yeah, I agree. I don't know to this day. I mean, it's funny. Aqil is kind of going through something similar now, but when I first met Tom and we hit it off, even though there were a million reasons why we probably shouldn't have, I spent many years wondering why me, why, because when we had the range, Tom would see, thousands of students come through there a month. Right. And to this day, I have no idea why he took me under his wing. And I mean, he could have taken anybody and it was just odd. And here we are sort of, I don't know. It's the last thing I would have expected. Is that he would, ask me to come back and, take me out on the range and show me little things and give me pointers and stuff like that. I don't know what it was that he saw in me that made him think that I would be receptive to that, because I actually wasn't when I first came through the door. But, he and his staff, they made believers out of me pretty quick.
I guess. Have you ever asked him, or do you think that you might ever one day just, pull up a chair and say, hey, Tom, look, this is a question I've got for you. Why me?
Yeah, maybe I will do that. Yeah. I'm kind of curious what the answer would be. Knowing Tom, he'd probably just make a wisecrack and,
Yeah, that's cool though, right? And I get that. Yeah,
he'll probably say something completely inappropriate.
Right.
Just ruin the whole moment.
Oh, okay. Well, so I guess let's head into our conversation if you guys are okay with it. And I'm going to confess right off the bat, I borrowed the title of this from one of your blog posts, Tiffany, because honestly, it brilliantly summed up what I think are some of the core pieces of our conversation. And that is, you described it as the need to widen the 2A tent. And I was going to be lame. I was just going to call this an episode about diversity in the gun culture. But honestly, I think that some folks hear diversity and their eyes, they roll back into the back of their heads, and they either won't listen or they half listen, being polite, and they assume that they've already heard what we're going to talk about, and then they just tune it out. And I don't want that to happen. Frankly, I really want our audience to lean in on this one. And I hope that they turn up the volume and y'all tell your noisy kids riding with you in the back of your cars to hush and really listen to this, because I think that this is going to be the start of a really cool conversation. And I say start because I know that there's no possible way that we'll finish this in, an hour and a half tonight. And I got to have y'all back. So I'll go ahead and predict that now. Y'all are going to come back. If you're not sick of me by the time this is over with, I hope you like Sandy and you come back. But
absolutely.
But Tiffany, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I think I know. I kind of got an idea, but I want you to tell us, what do you mean when you say that we need to widen the 2A tent? What's at stake here?
Wow. Well, in a word, everything. I think everything is at stake, not just for 2A, but for everything that 2A protects.
Yeah.
Because nobody can say, well, my well-being, myself, my family, my belongings, everything that I am, I'm going to entrust to total strangers to just sort of guard on my behalf. No one says that, right? No one decides that that's how they're going to go about their life, whether they actually consciously have this conversation with themselves or not. Well, in order for people to actually act on that, in order for people to be able to take their own self-preservation into their own hands, the 2A has to be a broad tent. And what I mean by that is, it has to encompass everybody. Its tentacles have to reach out into every crack and crevice of the universe. Mm-hmm. And it has to do so in a real way and not just in a talking points, kind of take for granted, a way that we take for granted. It can't just be small talk. It can't just be, sort of the stuff that everybody says, but never really acts upon or never really checks. Because I hear oftentimes people say things like, oh, well, the Second Amendment is universal. Really? But you're throwing people out who don't speak English, or you're throwing people out who have had abortions, or you're throwing people out who are not Christian.
Right.
And yet you claim the 2A is for everybody. Which one is it? Make up your mind.
Yeah.
And frankly, if we don't start to make the universality of the 2A a real thing, not just stuff we say, but stuff we actually believe and live by, then it's going to die out. Because those people who are in the little tent right now, they're not going to live forever.
Right.
Somebody's got to replenish that, that community. And if we don't broaden the tent, if we don't open our doors, then there won't be anybody left to say, hey, the 2A is for me.
Right. Right. I know you can probably see me since, you've got, we're on camera with each other, and I'm sitting here shaking my head and if we were in church, I'd be up, hands up in the air, amen. But, I'm sitting here shaking my head and like just, because I had a conversation with a good friend of mine right before we started this podcast tonight. And he's somebody that I I value his input on these matters because he's like us. He believes that there's a lot of empty rhetoric that gets bounced around by people because it's almost like speaking points, sound bites. It sounds good. And maybe they believe it at a very superficial level, but then when it becomes real and they have to let the rubber meet the road and start walking it, it gets a little uncomfortable and a little weird for them. And I don't know why really, but he made the comment. He said, we've got the millennials and the Gen Zers that are coming up behind them. And a lot of these younger folks of all races and creeds are very uncomfortable with firearms, and they're going to be voting soon, and if they're not already, and the current group of 2A proponents that are out there, the traditionalists, if you will, they're dying off. And so what does that look like in a few generations? And we've got a big problem because we think that empty rhetoric of diversity and inclusiveness means that, if we say it, that you'll feel welcome and then you'll just pick up the torch and run with it. But these folks are smart and they're looking. I see it, Tiffany, I see it all the time at work that the kids that we hire, and I use the term kids in an endearing term because I mean they're really as old as my oldest two children, in their 20s. But these young people, these kids that we're hiring, the things that are important to them are not how big is my paycheck, what's my office look like, do I get to work Monday through Friday and I'm off on the weekend, stuff like that. They want to know, what are you doing for the community? What are you doing to make the world a better place? What are you doing for the environment? They've got a list of things that are important to them, and not a single one of them says, what are you doing for the Second Amendment? And, what are you doing for my personal liberties or anything like that? There may be some, but the things that are important, it's not the stuff that was important to my generation and likely, yours. You're probably a lot younger than I am. But
not much.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to ask. So
I'm 40 years old.
Are you really?
I am.
High five for you. You do not look it. I look like I'm way past that. I'm 40.
Well, I'm actually starting to get these cool little silver hairs on the sides of my face that it makes it confusing as to whether or not I'm young or old.
Oh, you rock on with them, right? Because I got them all in my beard now. Sandy gave me every single one of them. But I'm 40. What this year? I don't remember 40. I have to do math again. I'm not a mathematician. I mentioned that. It sucks. My background's engineering, so I am a mathematician. But hey, it's 2018. So I'll be 46. Right? Yeah, I'll be 46. That's old. But folks my age, the traditionalists that used to, I guess we grew up with some awareness of guns. Maybe some of us did. We're dying off, and the ones that are older than me, even, and those are the ones that were carrying the torch. So, what are we doing to bring the younger crowd into it, and what are we doing to bring the people that don't look like me and don't sound like me and don't vote like me and don't worship like me or whatever? What are we doing to really express that universality of the fact that, like you said, the Second Amendment is for everyone? I have a feeling you're familiar with Tony Simon.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Right. So he has been a guest on some of the podcasts that I really love to listen to, like This Week in Guns, and I think he's been on the Gun Collective and a few others. And when I discovered him, I thought, this guy gets it, right? I mean, his thing is, when I say it's for everyone, I mean it's for everyone. And he's out there doing it, and he's trying to bring these people in. And I think maybe this gets into a part of our conversation here in a minute. But I wonder, what are these people encountering when they get brought in, right? You got people that are out there opening the door, ushering them in. But then when they walk into the 2A tent, what do they see? And I feel like we need to tear the tent down and build a new one, because the one that we got right now isn't very inclusive. I
agree.
So I don't know.
It claims to be inclusive. It's wearing the clothing of inclusivity.
Right.
But there are no concrete actions to back it up. I meet a lot of people. It's usually the folks who think the whole diversity thing, the folks who you were talking about at the beginning, who when they hear the word diversity, they just kind of, their eyes glaze over. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I think that that word now has so much baggage that it is of limited utility.
Yeah.
But diversity, as in, you know, what it used to mean before it got saddled with all of this baggage.
Right.
Is really important. And it's more important than just saying, hey, well, nobody's shutting you out. Nobody said you can't come. So if you don't come, that's just on you. You chose not to come. We didn't kick you out. That's the attitude that I get from a lot of folks who think it's not their job to beg people to come. If they don't want to come, then that's their loss.
Right.
And I get it. I mean, you have every right to take that attitude, but here's the problem. First of all, it belies your purported belief that the Second Amendment is universal. If that's what you really think, and that's core to the foundations of the Second Amendment, why it's there in the first place, then it will be important to you to make sure that everyone realizes that those core principles, right?
Right.
That would be crucial to your own realization of your own rights that are secured by the Second Amendment. It can't be an individual thing. If the Second Amendment only applies to some people and not to others, then it doesn't apply to anybody. So that's number one. Number two, you should have, if you're a 2A proponent, you should have very selfish reasons to want other people to come in, right? Even if you personally don't care whether or not these folks believe in the Second Amendment, for your own purposes, you should want them on your team.
That's right.
Right. I mean, that's just as a matter of pure strategy.
Sure, strength in numbers.
Absolutely. It just seems silly to take the attitude of, well, I don't care if you don't want to come, I'm not going to beg you. That's arrogant. And which is ironic to me, because if there's one thing that should come off when a gun goes on, it's arrogance. Guns and egos do not mix at all. So,
right.
You know, the very fact that you call yourself a Second Amendment proponent should mean by definition that you have the humility, the selflessness to want to sacrifice whatever convenience, whatever pride may otherwise keep you from reaching out to other folks so that you can extend that olive branch. So that, as Tony Simon says, so that you can give the 60%.
Right.
And meet them at 60-40 rather than standing at the 50-yard line indignantly waiting on them to come to you.
Right. Yeah, it's so arrogant to assume that people are going to do that. And especially if it's not something that the thought of its importance has never even occurred to them. You've got to work to meet people where they are. And if you're not willing to do that, then it is that empty rhetoric, and it's lip service. You know, it sounds good. You feel good about it. You pat yourself on the back and say, hey, I'm inclusive. I'm all for diversity. And then you expect somebody else to do all the work, you know, right. and sometimes the person that you're expecting to do all the work is the person that you're trying to include. And that's not the way that works. It's just not. So, okay.
Can I add another point?
You can jump in anytime you want to.
Another thing that I think we forget is that there is an opposing force that really wants the 2A to go away.
Right.
And they have no problem with outreach.
Oh yeah.
They have no problem going where we won't go, you know, where when we don't cross that line and we don't do the things that Tiff and you were talking about. They have no problem aligning themselves with that culture, you know, or with those types of people or diversity. They have, you know, they want to represent diversity.
Right.
And so I think that if the other point I want to make is that if we don't put that work in, somebody else is.
Absolutely.
No, you're absolutely right. Man, things are so serendipitous. I've been immersed lately in a survey of American history. It's actually a course. My employer thinks I'm not smart enough. They want me to go back to college. So that's what I'm doing. I'm being facetious. They actually are extending me an awesome opportunity to go back and further my degree. And one of the things that the school wanted me to do was, for whatever reason, they didn't like some of the history classes I'd had before or whatever. They questioned some of it, and they said, we really want you to do another one. And I thought, okay, whatever. And so it was a good reminder to go back through it and look at things and realize that even as far back as George Washington, he was strongly against a two-party system, which was interesting. And the whole purpose was, look, if they can get you divided, then they can work you against each other. And then when that happens, the wheels fall off. And I'm paraphrasing, right? But sure. Here we are. And it's kind of like, Aqil, what you were saying is there's that other side that doesn't want you to have rights and freedoms. And they know, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, quasi-political a little bit on this and say, they know that an armed person is not a subject, right? They're a citizen. They have a vote. They have a means of saying, nope, sorry, this is as far as I go. You can step back now because this is my dance space and that's yours. And these are where my rights begin and yours end. And they have a way to defend that. And, I really feel like when we start talking about why the Second Amendment is for everyone, it's for that. It's because human beings left to their own devices can be capable of some of the worst atrocities in our history, right? I mean, we can just say, okay, let's talk about Nazi Germany. Look what they did, and they started with a lot of disarmament and. We have to have boundaries that are enforceable and means of enforcing them if we are going to protect ourselves and keep people from subjugating us and, just doing all manner of bad things. And so the reason that the Second Amendment is important to me, at least, is it's a means of self-defense. It's a means of it's a means of recreation. Yes, sure. But it's also that thing that separates me from being a victim of either a government or a bad actor in society or whatever, right? So anyway.
And that's the other point, David, is that, one thing that my dad used to say, I'm actually second generation. My dad was an NRA instructor, one of the few African-American NRA instructors back in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And he used to say there's tyranny. There's the tyranny that you speak of government, but there's also the tyranny of the criminal element.
Yeah.
And as a person, we grew up in a rough neighborhood in Buffalo, New York. And you see that firsthand that, long before the government, before we get a Hitler or Pol Pot or anything, mm-hmm. all it takes is the drug dealer down the street to impose his will on the neighborhood, for example. And that's that right to protection is that universal right that liberals, conservatives, Christians, Muslims, any race, everybody has, and really, I think at their core, understand.
Right. That's right. It's we talk about in NRA circles or Pro 2A circles about a lot of reasons why we support the Second Amendment and why we choose to be armed. But where I think a lot of people under that traditional 2A tent, that one that's really seriously not all that inclusive, the point that they tend to miss is that everybody has their own story and everybody has their own life experiences that you might not be able to relate to and you might not understand. And that doesn't discredit that person. I grew up in fairly rural Western Kentucky, and there wasn't a whole lot of crime there when I grew up. And, of course, I also grew up in the 70s and parents would let their kids wander off across town and not know where they were, and there were no cell phones, and everybody was pretty safe with that. A kid that grew up in the inner city in the 70s had a completely different experience. And just because I didn't have that didn't mean that he didn't, and didn't mean that his experience or her experience was invalid, or that her reasons for wanting to be armed and protect themselves were any less valid than my own. And actually, where I probably grew up just thinking, hey, guns are cool, I like to go hunting occasionally, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You have another person that said, no, I need this because this is what protects me from that drug dealer down the street, or keeps me from being attacked at night while I walk home from my job or whatever. And, we need to get that through our heads as a community, that everybody's got their own story and it's valid and it's important. And even if you can't understand it, you need to respect it. And so anyway, soapbox, I'll hop off of it for a minute.
And I'll extend that just a bit. And I think this is another point that a lot of 2A advocates sometimes gloss over. Mm-hmm. We are so focused on the guns, the gun. We're so focused on that tool specifically that folks who are quote unquote anti-gun might almost be forgiven for seeing some of us as just sort of, having some sort of gun fetish, right?
Yeah.
But the most important part of the Second Amendment is not the gun part. The guns are a means to an end. The most important part, the goal of the Second Amendment, is that whole security of a free state thing.
Yes.
Security and freedom, right? So security is both security of the state as an institution, but also security of individuals, and then free, because that's inherent in the word freedom, right?
Yes.
You can't have freedom without individuality. So if we focus more as 2A advocates, if we focus more on the importance of security and freedom, I think there is more common ground to be had. Because in other words, the person who disapproves of my arming myself does not have to choose to arm himself or herself in order for us to have an accord.
Right.
I don't have to convince you to go armed. You may choose not to go armed. That is freedom.
Yeah.
Right. We in the 2A community get too hung up on you must carry a gun. You must carry a gun. No, freedom means you have the opportunity to choose.
That's right.
Whether you carry a gun or not, which is different from saying, oh, we all have, we must carry guns. It's not about that. If you come across intentionally or otherwise as imposing your preferences on other people, then you have defeated the entire purpose for which the Second Amendment was instituted.
That's right. And you've also just violated the whole thought or promise of being inclusive, because I think that we close a lot of people's minds. And I've seen this lately. This year we've had the unfortunate occurrences of a few school shootings, and I've spoken with some educators, that have said, look, I'm cool with you having a gun. I don't want you to be able to force me to have one. And that's why I'm against you. And I'm like, whoa, time out. I'm not trying to force you to have anything. I just want you to have the option to have that. And so then, there's some trust building there that has to go on. They're skeptical. They want to find out really if I mean it, or if I'm just, again, using speaking points. And then once we kind of work through that, and I had a fantastic conversation with a lady in California via Facebook about this. And, she said, I really don't think you want me to have one. I don't think that I could use it in a life or death situation, especially if it was against one of my own students. I just really, that's where I'm at with that. And I said, hey, look, I got it. I don't want you to have one either in that case. Because you and I, Tiffany, we know that if you're not going to use it and you have it, it's probably going to be taken from you and used against you, which is even worse. But her thing was, if you're not trying to force me to have it and I'm not trying to take it away from you, then why are we in contention with each other?
Exactly.
And it was a light bulb moment, for actually both of us. And I said, well, we don't have to be, you support my rights, I'll support yours. And your right is to not be armed if you don't want to be. And so I hope that, I carry that away from that conversation with me, and it's still with me. And I hope that she did also. But I think we miss it. And that's part of the inclusion and diversity that I think, we need to talk about as gun owners, is that stop beating each other over the heads with this, of you must have a gun, you must carry a gun, et cetera. And just realize that different strokes for different folks.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So surprisingly enough, we're already about 40 some odd minutes into this, and time flies. This is why I tell people all the time when they're like, oh my God, I don't think I can really talk for an hour and a half. It's like, trust me, we don't have that problem on this show. But here's what I would like to do. I would like to just plant a seed that we're going to come back to after the break. One of the things that you said in your blog was that the NRA needs to overhaul its marketing. And actually, I think you and I could probably agree.
Stop laughing, Aq.
No, man, keep going. I want it. So
you heard that devilish laugh.
Oh yeah. That tells me we're about to get to some good stuff. So this will be fun. But no, actually, I think that you and I could agree, and all of us here could. They probably just need to fire everybody that's doing their marketing today and start over from scratch. So
don't get me started.
Yeah, no, I'm going to. This is where we're headed. we're headed there. This is gonna be fun. So for the next segment, I really want to talk about is this, Tiffany, if you could wipe the slate clean and fix it for the NRA, where would you start? And that's what I want to leave. And we'll come back to that after the break. And I really want to know. And when we come back, I've got a quote from you. And I'm going to read it. And then I'm going to turn you loose because I told you when we talked the other day on the phone, I felt like we had an opportunity to kick in some doors and knock over people's furniture. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And, I'm with you. Let's just get rowdy with this thing. And I want to make some people uncomfortable, and I want to make them think, right?
All right. Well, I need to go put on another cup of coffee in that case.
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm ready to go. All right. So, Sandy, before we break, anything from you?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I just want to be inclusive of my wife. Because if I don't, I got to live with you. Tiffany, she's actually a better shot than me, which scares me to death, right? I'm faster, but she's way more accurate. So if I miss, I'm sunk. All right, folks. So we'll take a little bit of a break here, and we're going to regroup and kind of reorient our thoughts. We'll play some amazing commercials for you to probably fast forward through. No, don't do that. Please listen to our commercials and support our sponsors. So they make the whole thing possible. But we'll be back with you here in just a few minutes, and we'll come back with Miss Tiffany, and we're gonna get right into this thing. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey folks, David here. By now, regular listeners of the show are well acquainted with Mark and our friends over at Squared Away Customs. You already know that they are a manufacturer of high-quality custom Kydex holsters and carry gear for civilians, military, and law enforcement. But what you might not know is that Squared Away Customs is also your one-stop source for weapon-mounted lights and other firearms accessories. Mark, Corey, and the gang are now also stocking dealer for Polymer 80 frames and slides, and of course, have holsters to fit. What is Polymer 80, you ask? They are 80% complete polymer frames that you finish out with Glock pistol components. Because you're building it, there's no serial number, no FFL required, and no registration needed. It's a great way to build a custom Glock-style pistol of your own creation. Squared Away Customs offers Polymer 80 frames compatible with Glock model 17, 19, 22, 23, 26, 27, 34, and 35 Generation 3 components. They come in 2 different grip styles and include features like an extended beaver tail, double undercut trigger guard, and a thumb ledge already built in. So, if you're looking for the next level of customization and performance from the Glock platform, head over to squaredawaycustoms.com and check out their Polymer 80 accessories and, of course, their Squared Away Customs Polymer 80 custom holsters today.
Everybody, welcome back to the Shooters Nation podcast. This is David, and tonight, again, I am here with my wife, Sandy, who is trying to keep me out of trouble, and I don't know, you're not really doing too good a job of that. I'm getting in trouble every time I turn around, or maybe you're here to get me in trouble. Which is it?
I will never tell.
This sucks. I may not have you back on this ever again. And then, my favorite people tonight are...
Ouch.
Tiffany Johnson and Aqil Qadir. And so Tiffany, before we left for break, I said I wanted to come back and I wanted us to get a little bit rowdy about the NRA. And I think the reason why I want to do this is because we're kind of fresh on the heels of the NRA annual meeting just a month or so ago. But you know what? I'm just gonna do this on your blog. Your words.
Oh,
you said, and I'm quoting, it's updating stale assumptions and clearing out some cobwebs. And it's here in the right to protect yourself ranks that I think that we can find common ground. Not everyone agrees that abortion is murder and immigration gives you cooties and gay people burn in hell and country music powers the earth's rotation. Yes, amen. But everyone can relate to the basal instinct of self-preservation. And I said, when we come back, I would really like for you to tell me, Tiffany, if you could clear the slate and overhaul the NRA's marketing for them to be more inclusive and to widen that to a tent, where would you start?
I would start by firing Ackerman McQueen.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yep. Excellent. Tell me about that.
So, first of all, full disclaimers here. I don't profess to be any kind of marketing expert. So all of this is just coming from kind of grassroots gut instinct, and maybe somebody better versed in marketing than I am would have a million reasons why I'm wrong. But this is what I think as a consumer and as a person who genuinely wants to preserve the Second Amendment and everything it stands for. Ackerman McQueen is toxic.
Okay.
All of the toxic rhetoric and imagery that has come from the NRA and hit the public sphere. Well, I'll say most. I guess I won't say all, but most can be traced back to ACMAC. I don't think it's a bad company or anything like that, but its strategy, its marketing strategy is now so deeply ingrained in the NRA culture that I think it would be too heavy a lift to try and overhaul that. And it would be much more efficient if I ruled the world to just start fresh with a whole new marketing company.
Right. What are the... I'm almost, I don't know. Do I want to do this? Yes, I do. What we agreed we were going to be.
You have to think about that, David.
No. We agreed that we were going to just go after it. So what is there one thing that you can point to and say that right there, that bit of your marketing NRA is what's doing you in as far as reaching out beyond your current constituency to bring in other people, the other people that you desperately need to bring in for the votes and the activism to preserve the Second Amendment for the sake of liberty? That's it. That's the thing that's screwing you guys up.
So the most recent ad campaign, and let me be clear, I've not been behind the scenes for all of the planning for these advertising campaigns. Sure. So, maybe it's someone else who's putting all of this together, and ACMAC is completely innocent. I have no idea. I kind of doubt that. I think they've got more hands on the wheel than might be, apparent on the surface. But that last advertising campaign, they shot several, I think, maybe 60-second shorts and that sort of thing. The one that went viral was the one by Dana Lash, the clenched fist of truth.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Here's my problem with that whole, and there are several. Hers was the one that went viral because she threw fuel on the fire after it sparked a bit of controversy, and then it blew up. But that was just one in a series of shorts that they shot and posted on NRA TV and on the NRA Facebook page. And what they all had in common was this sort of self-righteous, indignant, I'm mad as hell, and this whole attitude, it was just dripping with anger and I'm pissed at the world. And here's my thing. When I argue to people that that's ineffective, they say, well, I am mad. I have a right to be mad. Look at what they're doing to the Second Amendment. Look at all of these new laws that they're passing. Look at how they're sneakily chipping away at our rights, blah, 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 blah. And I sit back and listen to folks go on and on about all of these reasons that they have to be angry. And I let them get it out of their system. And then I say, now, who has heard you on that? except people who agree with you?
Right.
And the answer is no one. No one cares what you think if you come at them in that way.
That's right.
And it doesn't matter how right you are if no one's listening.
Mm-hmm.
You can be right as hell, and it matters not. It doesn't amount to a hill of beans if the people who you claim are steadily chipping away at your rights are not listening to you.
That's right. Yeah.
So you're defeating your own purpose by, leaping out there with this sort of mad as hell kind of thing. And you're forcing people to tune you out before you even make your points.
Right. Right.
So what is the point of being right if, you force people to not hear you on it?
Yeah. Or worse yet, it's an echo chamber. As you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, the evangelical Christian church suffered this problem during the 70s, 80s, 90s, where, a lot of fire and brimstone and a lot of condemnation and things like that. And so maybe you're preaching to the choir and the choir is giving you, rousing amen. But the people out on the street that you're trying to bring in, that you're trying to reach out to, they're looking at that going, I don't want any part of that,
Right. Exactly.
And the congregation gets smaller.
Yeah, absolutely it does. Yes. Yeah, because, either the congregation, it gets smaller from one of two ways, right, Aqil? It either gets smaller because people leave because they're like, hey, this is not working, right? This does not resonate with me. Or they get smaller because the old guard dies off and there's no new blood coming into it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so when I think about exactly what you said, it seems like the NRA is about 20 to 30 years behind the times, and they need to quit preaching to the choir and start doing some real outreach, A. And I'm sorry, because I'm talking and I want you to talk, but B, it seems like, they also, they are lost with what to do to the people or do with the people when they actually get them to come in the front door and welcome them in. And they're like, oh, well, gee, you actually came in. What do we do with them now? Right. And so I think the as an organization, they're lost. They just don't know what the heck to do when the message accidentally gets out there to the right people and people come in and look around and go, well, this isn't what I expected. Or worse yet, this is exactly what I expected. I don't want any part of this. So, yeah. Okay. I'll be quiet.
Well, I mean, I think we agree on that. And the funny thing is there's some good messaging coming out of the NRA. The NRA has tried to put forth some more productive messaging, but it is even then, like there's a video from the NRA about the racist history of gun control and how it's meant to keep certain groups of people subordinated.
Yes.
That's really important.
Yep.
And now you have, vast swaths of the Black community that are staunchly anti-NRA, precisely because of some of the dog whistle stuff that comes out of Dana Lash's ad.
Yeah.
And yet you have this other video that could really resonate with this community. Wait a minute. You mean the people that the people whose side we're on now have actually tried to subordinate us by taking our rights away? You mean that all of the laws that we now support actually originated in 1960s, 1970s California, right?
Yep.
So that's something that I think the NRA could use to help broaden the tent, to widen the tent. But that video that I found, which had some really good information, even it was couched in this self-righteous, indignant, nasty, even some of the stuff from Colion Noir, I'm like, okay, right on, brother. But then he comes at people with this sort of stank attitude. And you just, if you come out of the blocks with a chip on your shoulder, I might listen to you because I know what, I am looking for from you. So I am willing to wait out your stank attitude until I get to the substance of your message. But if I don't know Colion Noir from a hole in the ground, I don't care if I'm black, white, pink, red, straight, gay, doesn't matter. If the first 30 seconds is you being an a-hole, then I'm going
Right.
to change the channel, especially if I'm already disinclined to trust you in the first place.
That's
And
right.
especially if you see Ted Nugent hanging around.
Oh man, yeah,
Okay.
crazy.
And this is my issue with Ted Nugent.
Don't get me. Oh,
No,
God.
seriously, and I'm gonna tell you why. The fact
let's
that
do it.
he even is there, really. I mean, if they were marketing anything else,
right?
If they were widget, I don't care, sports drink, whatever it was,
yep,
you couldn't have. I mean, look what happened to Roseanne Barr.
Yeah,
and that show. There's a reason that stuff goes down. But here, when Ted Nugent can still hang around, that's because they're pandering to a certain group, and people stop taking the message serious when they go, okay, well, you still got this guy hanging here.
Yeah.
Because he's a liability. In any other marketing campaign, he'd be a liability.
He'd been gone by now. Yeah, you're exactly right.
He'd been gone. So why keep him around? I mean, I don't know him personally, you know what I'm saying? And but he's shown to be a liability in so many different ways. The question remains, why is he still there?
Sure. Well, they're playing to an aging constituency inside the NRA that
cuts big checks.
Right. Cuts big checks. And what, I don't know what it is. I really don't know. I was so frustrated this year, and Tiffany, I saw on your blog too, that you're aware of Adam Kraut. And I was so frustrated that he once again was kept off of it because kind of like us, he's got a genuine burning desire to get in there and do something to change it. And there is an old guard, it seems, inside the NRA that is completely working against that. And
yes,
I don't know. That's it's got to change. It really does. And the NRA could really they could stand to own some of their history. And Tiffany,
Absolutely.
you mentioned the comment about the racist background of a lot of gun control laws. And I don't know how many of our listeners know that a lot of the gun control laws that we have in this country come from the 1960s in California, when the Black Panthers, who actually were very savvy to California state law as related to firearms, and said, we're going to arm ourselves and you're going to listen to us, right? They took the Second Amendment at face value. They took the Second Amendment at this firearm is really good for getting the attention of an oppressive government, right? And they went out to the streets with it, which was really pretty much unheard of. And as a consequence, a lot of gun laws started getting passed about open carry and who could even have guns. And the NRA got in there and backed that garbage. And, it's like, okay, well, so we're just going to totally ignore that NRA and pretend like it never happened. You could at least own it and explain why the NRA today is different, because there are people who remember that, or they're students of history, and they look at that and say, yeah, suspiciously, you've never really said why you're different today than you were then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is sad. And one of the things that makes me sad about the whole thing is that we've got this great story of these people who are doing what a lot of the people who support the Second Amendment, who did in the 60s, what a lot of people who support the Second Amendment say that they're behind, which is there was an oppressive local government and they resisted, without firing a shot in many ways, just,
right.
And that is a great American story of fighting for your freedom. Sure. But we can't use it, and we don't use it because of those prevailing beliefs that we talked about in that old guy.
Yeah. There's a very old narrative that continues to be repeated, and it you're right. It's not good to talk about these things. I don't know, Sandy, we were talking about this earlier about the fact that a lot of the things that we, history itself has been rewritten to ignore a lot of very inconvenient truths. Right? Absolutely. And I could completely go off on a tangent about this. I love history, and I've heard, and this is it's funny. Mark calls these things the Shooter's Nation tangent, and it seems to happen. But y'all have probably heard the same skit that I have. There's some television show where a news reporter explained, in his opinion, why America was not the greatest country on earth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And part of that incensed me, because I was like, I take offense at that. And then I started to think about it and started thinking about the things that I've actually learned about history, reading history outside of school systems, reading books about what happened, written by the people who were there. And, I thought, okay, so I think that we need to acknowledge that our government, our forefathers, did a lot of really bad crap. And, there are some things in our history that we absolutely should be ashamed of and never repeat again, ever, and never allowed to be repeated again. However, I disagree that America is not a great country, because there are people outside of the politicians that make it great. There's the Tiffanys and the Aqils and the Sandys and the people like our listeners who don't have any party to that nonsense to begin with. And they're what makes the country great. They're what holds it together. And that's why inclusivity is so important, is because when we fail to acknowledge that and we start looking through prospective members of any organization, but particularly in this conversation, the NRA, and think, well, as I look through the crowd, well, there's a person that looks like me, they can come in. There's a person that doesn't. Nope, they can't. Then we're completely missing the part that what makes America great is the diversity of the number of people and the cords and that bind us all together. And any organization that doesn't capitalize on that diversity as a strength is just weak from the start. And that's what drives me nuts about the firearms community in general. I see it. Tiffany, we talked about this the other day. There, we had the Pro 2A rallies after the Parkland, Florida shooting, and there was one organization in particular that was trying to rally people together on a Saturday. I think it was in April, across at all the state capitals across the country, and I just didn't even go. People had invited us. The Tennessee Gunners organization I head up, and they said, "Hey, let's get everybody out there." And I'm going to hold, because I see who some of the people are that are organizing this. I know what's going to happen. And sure enough, you turn on the news, and we, as a 2A community, had just brought out all the crazy and put it on display, and the media was more than happy to put a camera and a microphone in those people's faces and let it be seen. You had the camouflage from head to toe. You had the militia flags. You had the rebel flags. You had all this stuff. And I'm sitting here thinking, what is wrong with you people? Why do we constantly look like what they want us to look like, so that they can denigrate the Second Amendment and anybody that supports it? Where are the people in khakis and polo shirts? Where are the people in a nice pair of jeans and a t-shirt? Where are the folks that have brought their kids out? Where's the grandmoms? Where's where are the black people? Where are the Asians? Where is the diverse people that I know own guns and value the Second Amendment because it is a protective mechanism? Where are they? And why is it all the crazy people instead? And it just felt like, man, we fall into that trap all the time. We talked about how we're our own worst enemies, right? So,
and not to, this is a gross oversimplification, but sure, to distill it down to the lowest common denominator, as long as we have Ted Nugents on the board of the NRA, those people will never show up. Period. Yeah. End of story. Because why would they?
Right.
Why would they?
My friend that I mentioned earlier, Brian, he and I were chatting about that very rally. And he said, I'm telling you what, he said, I'm going to get my car and I'll drive by it. And if I see that garbage, I'm going to keep going. And I think that what the gun owning community misses in those opportunities is those are not, we shouldn't look at those as being demonstrations or protests, but as outreach opportunities. And if you show up dressed and carrying signs and other memorabilia, flags, what have you, that are polarizing, you're going to push away the people that are in the middle that haven't made up their minds. And those are the ones that you're trying to reach out to.
I actually have a, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go. Yeah.
Well, it just reminds me of a recent experience. It was at some NRA event. I think it was the Carry Guard Expo, maybe.
Okay.
It was one of the big NRA conventions, and there were protesters outside. Mm-hmm. I wrote about this on my blog, or I think I talked about it on a podcast. But there were huge gatherings of protesters outside, and there were also Pro 2A folks. There were open carriers, and there was a group of guys that, those pro-gun folks that come out and they strap on as many different firearms as they can.
Oh, yeah.
Have 80 guns hanging off of them, and they're in full camo and all that crap. And so these protesters were all in their faces, and there were these little old ladies and soccer moms and, grandmas and all these folks with signs and whatnot. And they were very animated. And I end up sort of right in between them. They didn't know who I was. I was there attending the NRA convention, but I had on, I don't know, sweats and a T-shirt or whatever, my usual uniform.
That's the way you do lawyer work, right?
That's right. Aqil gets on my case about my beat up sweatpants, but hey, you're comfortable. But I'm just there in my regular everyday whatever. I don't have the "Don't Tread on Me" T-shirt on, and I don't have patches everywhere. Right. I just look like a regular person.
Right.
And I end up right in between these super like armed to the teeth guys and these protesters. And I started talking to this one lady, one of the protesters, and I'm just kind of asking her questions. Why? Because she was really emotional and upset and screaming, blah blah blah, and she starts talking about those guys, and she's like, "Look at them; they look scary, and they're all blah 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 blah. Why are they trying to intimidate people?" And yada yada yada, on and on and on. And I said, "You'd much rather be around people who are, nice and friendly, and
like you,
yeah, exactly, and like me, right?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I said, "You're not scared of me, are you?" "No, absolutely. See, if we had more people like you, it'd be fine." And I said, "Well, I've got 3 guns on my body right now."
Right.
Do you suddenly feel differently about me?
Yeah.
And, and she had nothing to say. And it just confirmed for me what my gut has been telling me all along, which is we need to stop trying to beat our beliefs over people's heads.
Yes.
Like we need to take, there's so much more to be done with sugar than vinegar. And I don't know why we are so hell bent on stomping our feet and, planting our flags and just being so, we just need to chill out.
No, I mean, we are, you're
really
right.
Do a lot when you just, me and Tiff, we work hard. Not hard, but because of people who we have to deal with a lot. Me and Tiff have more people around us daily who think we're crazy than the average gun owner just because of the community we're from.
Right.
We go out of our way, to look like everybody else.
Sure.
To really, because
not
I think that's
uniform.
Yeah, they're not wearing the uniform because that sends a message. When people come to my class, I try to look like, just the average guy in a T-shirt and jeans or whatever,
Right.
Because I want people to understand that, you don't have to walk around in camouflage.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that sends a huge message,
No, you're right. I mean, we're so preoccupied with drawing battle lines that we forget to draw a welcome line. Right.
Right.
And it's frustrating to me. There's so much wrong with the way that some elements of the 2A community want to approach the issues, and it's very confrontational. And to go back to the Dana Lash commercials, the mad as hell, fists clenched and what have you. Okay, maybe you are, right, but that's is that a marketing ploy? I mean, is that really bringing somebody in? That's a sales pitch.
And the funny thing is, it would be different if those ads were cut for a different purpose.
Right.
Like if those were the preaching to the choir ads that they sent out to that they played at the super hyper conservative Republican whatever.
Right after all the country music, yeah.
But that's not what they were for. If you watch those ads, what flashes on the screen at the end of every one of those ads? It says "Join the NRA."
Right.
Those are marketing ads they're marketed for non-members to attract people to join the NRA. And I'm like, this ad is cut for people who are already in the NRA.
Yeah, it's almost like it's
not going to pull in new people.
Come join your favorite 2A hate group.
Right, exactly.
Right. Exactly. Like, that's not cool. Why do I want to join a hate group? And
the thing about the whole uniform, this drives me insane. And it's funny because whenever we go to classes, I always get a kick out of seeing what people are wearing because it's almost like they try to out uniform each other. Like who can wear the coolest pro gun shirt? Right. I have the most badass shirt out of everybody, and it's like Aqil said, sometimes depending on the class, I'll go out of my way to make sure I'm not wearing a, hey, I'm a gun guy shirt.
And then I'll shoot them,
Well, I'm still working on that part, but yeah, ideally that would be, yes. But the thing is, it's the same as with any other point of difference.
Yeah.
Think about anything that you felt was different about someone or some group or something ever in your life. When did you realize that gulf wasn't as deep as you thought?
Right.
It was when it occurred to you that someone already in your circle fit that description.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, gay people are nasty. Oh, my sister, you're gay? I didn't know that. Oh, well, it's always that. And it's true no matter what. If you hate Muslims, guess what? One of the people you hang out with every day is a Muslim, and you just don't know it. If you hate gay people, if you hate Democrats, if you think all anti-gun people are stupid, guess what? Someone in your family is that.
Yeah.
And it's not until you realize that the other isn't quite so distant.
Right.
Only then do we start to second guess our own, because it's really convenient to wall people off. Right. It's really easy to say, oh, well, they're not as smart as I am, or they haven't thought it through as much as I have. They're disillusioned, until the they is someone you care about.
It's us.
Then you're forced, right. It's us. Yeah. So then you're forced to reconsider, just like that lady that I was talking to. She considered me us.
That's right.
She didn't consider me they.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I had established myself as they first, and then tried to convince her, it would have been pointless.
That's right.
It's much easier if I'm us first, and then we discuss our points of view, right? Because now we're on the same playing field, as opposed to being walled off in our separate corners.
That's right. No, I really, I hope that it's obvious, but I want our listeners, and I think I really believe that most of our listeners, from the feedback that I've gotten, they're like us, Tiffany. I mean, they're probably in their car right now, cheering us on. And I hope that's the case. And I hope that they share this with the ones maybe that aren't. But I would challenge them, quit finding tidy little neat boxes and labels to put on people and cram them in just because you don't agree with some element of their life. And especially when you start thinking about anything that's an outreach opportunity. And for us, this conversation is the NRA, but it could easily be any other pro Second Amendment organization that if your whole way of discarding a person's thoughts or opinions or feelings on a subject and invalidating them is to just put it in a box and say, you're black, you're Muslim, you're gay, you walk with a limp, you smell funny, you like Glocks or whatever, right? Then all you've done is taken the lazy route out of dealing with something that challenged your comfort zone and challenged what you thought you knew about the Second Amendment and about inclusiveness and about people. And, we're all in this thing together. And that's why I think that this is so important, is that we've got to get in and change these organizations, or the organizations aren't going to survive, and then the Second Amendment itself won't survive. And then right behind that is personal liberty.
And then, you put people in boxes, but the problem is that now the 2A community is starting to find itself in that box.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the people and the numbers outside of that box are growing.
Oh, man,
and we're either going to change our strategy or it's going away.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's such a, I guess, Aqil, you put it in a way that I hadn't even thought about, but we are in that box now. The Second Amendment community, gun owners, are hated right now by a lot of people that don't really know why they even hate us, and how does that feel, gun owners? Those of you that thought you were being inclusive of others, how's it feel now to think about the fact that you're not inclusive? I'll be honest, after one of the shootings last year, I think it was, I told my wife, I said, I had a pro gun sticker on the, my truck window. And, there's a lot of reasons not to have those, people break into your cars and all that other stuff. But I took it off because I felt embarrassed driving down the road because of some of the stuff that was going on in society, and I didn't want somebody to put me in that box. And Aqil, you're right. We're in there now as gun owners and Second Amendment supporters and advocates. We're in the box, and why are we subdividing it? Why are we inside that box deciding who's going to be inside of the boxes inside the box? A little bit of inception there to, for us to hate each other. It's stupid. So, Tiffany, you mentioned Andy Lander, the former training counselor program coordinator at the NRA. You said that the meeting that you meeting him honestly renewed your faith in the NRA. Can you tell us about that in a few minutes worth of conversation?
Yeah, and I think Aqil had a similar experience when he went and trained at NRA headquarters too. But basically, it was eye-opening when I was appointed. When I went through the training counselor workshop to become an NRA training counselor, I went to Virginia and took the class at NRA headquarters under Andy Lander, who, as you said, was the director of training at the time. Mm-hmm. And part of the workshop was kind of touring the building, getting to know the staff, and being introduced to folks. And we got to peek under the hood, so to speak. And that really did make things, it kind of brought things home for me with the NRA. It's real easy from afar to kind of bash the NRA and to leap to conclusions and make assumptions about what their priorities are because of the political stuff that you see on TV and the public face of the NRA. Well, going through the training counselor workshop at headquarters reminded me of some things that I already knew and taught me some things I didn't know. But the main thing was distinguishing the training division from the political wing, from the ILA.
Okay.
And it really reinforced for me what the original goal of the NRA was, which is education and training.
Yeah.
All of the political stuff is relatively recent in the history of the NRA. Mm-hmm. And so that helped me to step back from some of my angst about the alienation that has resulted from the recent ad campaigns and the media persona that the NRA puts out there, because the training division is almost completely divorced from all of that stuff.
Right.
And very diverse.
Yes.
And very diverse, which is fascinating.
That's awesome. Yeah, I bet a lot of people don't even realize that part of the organization even exists.
Right.
Me and Tiff find we have to explain that to people, actually, especially Black people, that, mm-hmm. If we even want them to start at this point, even being interested in NRA instruction. There's classes if we got a majority of Black people or others in the class, we'll start off by explaining the differences in the divisions of the NRA.
That's interesting.
And the sad part is we have to do that in order to even get people even the least bit receptive to what we're bringing to the table. If it's branded with NRA, then people's ears just slam shut. And it's, you asked at the beginning, what's at stake? Well, just at least in terms of the NRA, if the political wing continues down this path mm-hmm. of fire and brimstone and, my rods, then what's going to happen is it's going to cannibalize all of the good that's happening on the training side.
Oh, absolutely.
The training division is just about educating the public, which is what the NRA, I think, should focus on. Now, I understand, why we have to get involved in politics and all of that. That's fine.
Sure.
But if people are steadily running away from the NRA in general, then they're going to run away from any valid, good, legitimate training program that has the NRA logo on it.
Yeah, they're going to run away from all of it.
You should see, it's really comical. You should see the gymnastics that Aqil and I have to go through to promote these courses that we think will benefit people.
Yeah.
But we know they will run away screaming as soon as they see the NRA logo.
That's interesting.
So there's this delicate dance that we have to do, like, hey, basic pistol, and in the fine print, this is an NRA class, but don't let that discourage you. It's not really, it's us, me and Aqil. Don't worry. We're friendlies.
Right.
And I have had people tell me straight up, I would absolutely love to train with you, but I'm not giving the NRA 1 red cent of my money.
Right. Yeah. And the crazy thing is, first of all, we've got to come back and do a conversation about, there's so much I want to talk about just, the diversity and experiences in the, in the Black communities and the Hispanic communities and so forth that, just people of color, that I know there's a different perspective there on guns in general. And I think you guys have got a lot of, I'm going to use the word, I was going to use the word agency. I think y'all have got a lot of agency to talk about that stuff that, I want to just give you, the open floor to do it sometime soon if y'all want to take advantage of that, and help people understand, help the other people that are struggling with this, what to do with diversity and what does diversity and inclusion really mean. Help them understand, what it means from y'all's perspective, because, just like you said, there's people that you have to sell them on the idea, hey, look, I know it's the NRA, but trust us, it's actually not bad. But the interesting thing is I'm seeing this now inside, the gun forums and Facebook and stuff with people who were traditionally the NRA staunch supporters, the target demographic for the angry ads, they're actually getting kind of ticked off with it too. And they're starting to say, I'm not giving them another dime. And I'm done with the NRA. I'm distancing myself from them. So let me ask a question. These people, regardless of why they're in that spot, but the folks who feel like they're either disenchanted with the NRA or they're disenfranchised by them, what's your advice to those people?
My advice would be to try and have an open mind, to find someone who can be a bridge. Find someone that you are comfortable going out on a limb with, taking a slight risk with, entrusting, at least temporarily. That's Aqil and I try to fill that space. We try to be a bridge and try and dispel some myths with respect to the NRA. But at the same time, we are also those NRA members, diehard card-carrying NRA members who will readily admit to some of the ways in which the NRA has completely dropped the ball, in our opinion. It's that whole ownership thing that you were talking about. I really wish the NRA would publicly own some of its history that's not in keeping with its current messaging. And I think that would humanize the NRA quite a bit and garner a bit more trust in the communities that the NRA has traditionally alienated.
Yeah.
But so for those folks who don't want, to have anything to do with the NRA, my suggestion would be have an open mind, think about it in terms of education and training. Even if you're going to be the most fervent anti-gun person ever, do that from a standpoint of informed.
Yes.
Do that from a knowledgeable platform, right? You can't talk against guns without knowing anything about guns.
Right.
So even if you're sure that that's your opinion, that's fine, because I'm not one of those folks that is going to tell you what to think. But at least have an informed opinion and back it up with some education, some solid, unbiased information, and a little bit of training. And you can get that from, I hate to even say it, but from the NRA. And that's where we launch into our whole spiel about how the training division is completely separate from the political side of things.
Yeah.
So all the stuff you see on Facebook and all of the videos that go viral and that Dana Lash chick, they have nothing to do with the training division. Don't just ignore that.
Right.
Come over here. This is where the education side is. And then learn a little bit, and then you can talk intelligently about why you're anti-gun, if that's where you land at the end of all of this. So it's a two-way street.
Yep.
And that's what I would tell people to do. Just find somebody that you can trust.
Right.
Find somebody that you're willing to take a chance on, because nobody's gonna, these folks, they're not gonna take a class from anybody that looks, talks, or acts like Ted Nugent. Mm-hmm. Or even Dana Lash, for that matter, or any of that, nasty attitude type. It's got to be someone who's welcoming, who is genuine in their expression of true desire for you to get some good, unbiased, impartial knowledge. The problem with a lot of folks who try and sell the NRA to people who are against the NRA is that they come across as disingenuous.
Yeah.
I hate it when pro 2A people try and reach out to folks who are anti-gun or anti-NRA, and they say things like, well, the Second Amendment was written for everybody. No, it wasn't. Yeah. Don't lie.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because now we may be able, all people, including Black people, may be able to use the Second Amendment to their benefit now.
Right. Yeah. Now.
But don't look me in the face, lie to me and tell me it was originally written for me, and then expect me to believe anything else you say.
Right.
Because it's just not true.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I'm sitting here chuckling to myself that, you're exactly right. And even if you believe that and you're honest in that, you probably ought to do some research on history, because that's not the way it was. I mean, really it just wasn't. And you were talking about it's okay to be against the Second Amendment and be against guns and being against individual ownership of guns, but at least do it from an informed perspective. And we didn't even get into that. And that's, got to have you back on. I keep saying this, but your story started there. And that was one of the things that I thought was fascinating about you, is that you have a personal story, and we don't have to get into that right now, but it was very real to you, very personal for you. And you did it. And I'm just going to summarize real quickly for our listeners. Correct me if I'm wrong, but to kind of face a fear maybe. And you kind of went into it going, okay, I'm going to get over this hump. And then you encountered something completely different. And it's because of gentlemen like Tom Givens that made it real and welcoming.
Yeah. And that's why this is so, again, getting back to your question at the beginning, which I think is the absolute most important question everyone needs to ask himself or herself, which is, what is at stake?
Yeah.
Imagine if me 20 years ago or however long ago that was, if I woke up that same day, somewhat afraid of guns, somewhat anti-guns, somewhat suspicious of guns, and said to myself, you know what, screw it, I'm going to take a gun class.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of walking into Tom Givens' range, I walked into Ted Nugent's range.
Mm-hmm.
How would my life story have changed from that one moment in time?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Yeah, you wouldn't be an ambassador for the Second Amendment and for people to, I know that you have a genuine desire for people to be able to protect themselves and their loved ones. And that's where it comes down to, you wouldn't be that ambassador. You just wouldn't.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And I can't stress enough to folks in the 2A community. I mean, you asked what folks outside of the community can do, what my suggestions to them would be. Well, as far as folks within the community, my one suggestion I'd have for us is, you never know. Outreach is not something you decide to do. You are conducting outreach all the time, 24 hours a day, whether you realize it or not.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So everything you do is an act of outreach. The only question is, what is the effect of it going to be?
Right. Yeah. What message are you putting out there constantly, even when you're not thinking about it? That is powerful.
And it applies regardless of whether the people with whom you're communicating realize you're a gun person or not. I've come back across folks 10 years later, who I spoke to way back when they had no idea that I was into guns.
Yeah.
And just the fact that, so many years down the line, they said, okay, this person, I was super cool with her in high school, and, hey, we hit it off great in college or whatever. And now here we are. She's mad cool. She's intelligent, whatever. And now I learn, despite all of my other preconceptions about guns, that she is a gun person.
Right. Right.
So that was outreach.
That's the best outreach.
It
Absolutely.
Is. It's the genuine type. Yeah. Yeah.
My dad used to say his best outreach was people go, "You carry a gun?" And he wanted to be that guy that, I used to protect me and my family, but not fit into the stereotypes or the preconceived notions that they already have about people in the community.
Yep. No, that's yeah, that's it. Golly.
And I work extra hard at my community only because we're the poster children for gun control. And I'm hoping that, that me and Tiff and people like us can make some inroads to make some changes that will break some of that up, because unfortunately the cognitive dissonance is that although we're the poster children for gun control, as Ken Hackathorn said, we often need it more than anybody else.
I was just thinking, yeah, absolutely you do. Yeah.
Which shows you the head game, and that me and Tiff have families full of people and friends and who know they need it, know they need some type of protection, but don't know where to turn. And America has a long history of kind of making firearms taboo.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say, or they're afraid of it. Right. They know that they need it, but then they're afraid of it.
That's generational.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, we're totally getting into the things I had stuff I wanted to talk about, and this is why we got to have you guys back.
Yeah, I have a long list of things I want to talk about in this subject. So I hope when you come back, I get to join you again, because I do have things to say about that. I know I've been quiet, but I do have one question. Do you guys feel like the NRA could right the ship, could draw back in the minority voice that we so desperately need and the diversity that we need to keep the Second Amendment afloat? Or do you think that there needs to be a grassroots movement and a second organization rise up that speaks for a larger number of people that can work on both sides of the Republican-Democrat line?
So I'll jump in, and I don't know if, depending on how cynical you are, you might call me either optimistic or naive. But my gut instinct is yes. However, the only way it could do that is to basically tear down the 10 and start over. Mm-hmm. It's not something that could be effective in a long, drawn out, gradual way. Because I think the destruction of the Second Amendment is right now outpacing the NRA's change.
Yeah.
And so in order to meet that goal, we would have to do something drastic and we'd have to break a lot of China. And it would be painful. And it would uproot a lot of deep-seated old traditions, old guards would be turned on their heads. And so it is theoretically possible, but it would be very difficult and it would cause a lot of hurt feelings.
Well, I'm cool with that.
I think it's doable if the NRA, I think, is poised to do it better than anybody else at this point. Mm-hmm. But it would take, like she said, a radical departure from what they're doing now. And I don't know if the money would allow them to. But I think that, for example, if they were to change some of the faces and do a different marketing plan and even if they came out and say, okay, this is the new NRA, right, under somebody like Kraut, and we decided, as opposed to just pandering to our base over and over again, that we're going to, take a different route and try to be as inclusive as we possibly can. I think that it would hurt. Like she said, I think that it would hurt because there would be a mass exodus of some sort of people who want to see it a certain way and who are hiding it and like it the way it is.
Well, they weren't helping us anyway, so I'm
right. But I think in the long run, it would be some China would get brokenness, everything. In the long run, I think that we would see the benefit of it.
Yeah. Well, Tiffany, you said something on your blog that resonated with me about the NRA, and it's kind of like you were. You can either stay on the outside of it and wish it would change, or you could get in the middle of it and try to affect the change. And I hope that maybe we can partner up with people like you and others that want to see a change in the NRA by getting a grassroots thing. If we get enough people in there with voting power to affect change, then hopefully, Aqil, the money can't ignore it, because then they have to play by we're playing by their rules and we're carrying the votes. So. I'm I don't know.
Having said that, I think that there's a swell. I think Kraut and people like, Golub and people like that, we're starting to see these people now on the ballots. And I mean, not this year, but maybe next year, you're starting to see a swell of that inside. And I think that if people like us get grassroots, we get in there, go to the meetings, and see what we can do to present something different. That if there is, because, a revolution happened in the NRA in the 70s, and it's primed for another one.
Yeah,
I think that now it's time for us to, that we can actually be a part of that if we move.
That's right. Yeah. I bet a lot of people don't know that. And, it's interesting to know what the history of the NRA was and how it, it's funny. A lot of the people that determined, what the NRA is today were around then, and they're why it is, and they're still clinging. And hopefully, they're going to retire out or die out, one of the two. And as they vacate seats, then there's a chance for some real change. But there's a lot of old blood holding old ideas and old values that need to go. And, that the best way to affect that is to perhaps hold your nose, pay the dues, and get voting power. And let's push for that change to happen. Mm-hmm. I can't believe that we're almost to a 2-hour point. And so we've probably gone into some overtime here.
Sorry.
No. Do not apologize. I keep
you got us going. It's your fault.
Hey, yeah, that's right. And I keep telling everybody, you got a pause button on your phone for a reason. So if you wanted a 30-minute podcast, guess what? You got 3 of them right here in a row. So use the pause button. It's fun. But I don't want to stop, but I know that we probably need to save some material to come back and light that fire up again next time. And please come back. Tiffany, I saw some of your stories. If you go to NRAM 2019, can we hang out for real? Can we just, I think we can have our own fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. I would love that. That would be wonderful.
We'll do it. We'll go cause trouble together and it'll be awesome. And I think, I bet Mark, awesome. I bet Mark can get in on it. Sandy, Aqil, we'll go make people wish that they had chosen different things in life.
That sounds awesome.
It'll be fun. We'll go confuse all the protesters. It'll just bounce back and forth between the lines. It'll be great. But a little bit of anarchy is always good.
Always good.
Tiffany, Aqil, thank you. Does not even cut it. I really appreciate taking a chance and coming on with us. And just, I really appreciate the honesty and the openness and the transparency. I hope we made some people think. And more importantly, I want y'all to tell me how, and you don't have to do it right now. But really follow up with me. I want to know how we can help you guys. If we can partner up with y'all, even if it's just simply by giving you a platform to come on and check in with us and our listeners occasionally and let us know how we can help you guys and support y'all and really affect some change and make the 2A more inclusive. I'm completely open to it. So I hope you'll take me up on that and really look forward to talking to y'all more about that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys. Tiffany, we normally kind of do a closing conversation and I'm going to ask a question. So just to kind of have a little bit of fun before we let everybody else go. So I'm a gun nerd and Aqil and I were talking about that on break, that I like guns and I'm curious, what's your preferred handgun for carry, Tiffany?
My preferred, if I had my druthers, would probably be a Glock 17, but
okay.
I usually carry a Glock 19.
Okay. Yeah, Mark will be super happy to hear that you're a Glock 17 girl because he tells me that I'm a Glock 19 girl. So I don't know. I just like my 19s. I can't help it. Aqil, how about you, man? What do you normally carry?
I'm a Glock 19 guy, but lately this MMP has been whispering to me.
Yeah, are you looking at the 2.0, like the full size or the compact?
Yeah, I bought my son the 2.0 for a gift, and I don't know if I'm gonna give it to him.
Well, he doesn't have to know unless he listens to this. So,
and I find out about it, maybe.
I mean, as a good father, it's really your duty to try that thing out and make sure it's good for him. Yeah, I mean,
put 1,000 rounds on it, break it in for him nice, and then
carry it for a while. Yeah, I mean,
make sure it's right for him. Don't want to
right.
Junk,
No, I support that, man. Like I said earlier, I'm an enabler. I will help you think of reasons to keep that thing. So that's awesome. All right. Sandy, I know what you carry. Do you want to tell everybody what you carry?
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Tell them what you carry. Break out your big caliber.
I carry a 45 and I love it. And I don't like Glocks. I feel more and more like I'm the only person on the planet whose hand was just not made for a Glock. But
Oh no, you're not.
It just doesn't fit my hands.
The only people who have hands made for Glocks are Lego people. So that's really the way it works. So everybody else just makes do. But no, yeah, you carry an XDS, and that we got to fix that. I'll let you have a 45, but whatever. God's chosen caliber.
I just love my XD. It's your fault because my very first training class that I took with the XD. And I just loved them ever since.
I've probably misled you in a lot of other ways that you got past. We can work past this one. All right. Tiffany, I guess where can folks connect with you and Aqil after the show if they wanted to?
So I'll let Aqil talk about citizen safety, but that's where all of our training is based. Citizen Safety Academy. It's based in Murfreesboro. And so Aqil will talk about that for the blog that you apparently read, which makes me blush.
I'm all over that blog.
It's so funny because I always tell Aqil I'm shocked when I realize people other than my mom are reading it.
What? No. Yeah. Well, your mom and I are both reading it.
We've been going back and forth all day because we've been in sort of different parts of the house all day. So we'll like pass each other in the kitchen. Like, hey, did you read that one entry about the?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks for reading it. But my website is FrontSightPress.com.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody can reach me there. And my email is Tiffany@FrontSightPress.com or Tiffany@CitizensSafety.com, which is what Aqil's going to talk about now.
Awesome.
Citizen Safety Academy in Murfreesboro, Tennessee is me and Tiff's attempt to start getting training out to those other demographics. That, is to get it to other people, to expand it to a community, as opposed to, I'm sure you've heard as a guy who trains there's about, some people say 20, 30, 40,000 people that make up the whole training industry.
Yeah.
That keep it afloat. There's another 300 million people out there that me and Tiff want to go get.
Awesome.
And so our training is geared towards those non-traditional people who don't, who aren't gun nerds like we are, and so all of our training is geared towards that, at least in the beginning. The thought is to get them to where they will go to a combative pistol with a Tom Gibbons or go see a South Narc or something like that, but to develop their understanding. And that's why we use NRA classes. I've been an NRA instructor since 92 and stopped doing it for a while and got back to it because it's still some of the most vetted, TTPs and lesson plans in the country. And so, that's what's behind this, and it's not just about guns. It's about the first thing is mindset, situational awareness. How to keep yourself safe. Just to open people up to the concept of personal protection, just to get them thinking about it. And if they want a gun, that's fine too. We can show them how to use that too.
Awesome. Well, I will put both FrontSightPress.com and Citizens, and that's plural, folks, CitizensSafety.com in the show notes, and we'll get that out so that everybody can click that easily. I love the sound of dry firing. I'm exactly the same way. I mean, man, like completely down with, I do this all the time, and Mark be like, are you like dry firing your gun? I'm like, yeah, dude. Like,
yes,
don't act like you're not. But no, heck yeah, man. Absolutely. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you both on tonight. I hope that the listeners enjoy it, even a fraction of what I have. And I hope that we can have you guys back on. Really, I do. So the door is open anytime that y'all want to come back. Be glad to do this.
Be glad to be back anytime you want, brother. Just let us know.
Absolutely. All right, we'll do it. All right, everybody. So big thanks to our friend Tiffany Johnson for coming on the show tonight, and Aqil Qadir. Special thanks to our Patreon members who are directly supporting the show and making future episodes possible. If that's you or you want to support the show, you can do so by visiting shootersnation.com and looking for the donate tab. Not necessary, not mandatory, but we do appreciate it. We definitely want to hear from you all. So head over to shootersnation.com and look for the feedback form. Tell us what you want us to talk about on the show. Who do you want us to interview? What subjects do you want us to cover in the weeks ahead? And we will do our best to make that happen. Some cool things coming up. Just a noteworthy item. U.S. Navy SEAL William is coming back on the show as promised to talk about developing or improving a safety program for your church or place of worship. And I am pretty sure that is going to be the episode after this one. So we hope you all will come back and listen to that. Until next time, please be safe out there. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care.
The preceding segment was a production of the Shooters Nation podcast. Visit us online at shootersnation.com.